everybody to Appy Hour. Our focus for today is on student narratives. Quick agenda. So you can check out our items with them. You can give me a smiley face emoticon in the chat. Here's my little emoticon. I'm open to other emoticons, so you can be creative if that's your thing. Our big focus for today is around the question of student narratives and how do we encourage them in the classroom. We know from an English teacher point of view there are many opportunities across the spectrum to be able to have students tell narratives through the common tasks. But we also know it's a much broader, we do narrative in so many of our disciplines. It'll also be a study in one particular app, Storyboard, and how one app can be really flexible and to hit a number of different goals within our school system, our classrooms. Questions or thoughts, if you have any burning ones that drove you specifically to this Appy Hour, throw them in the chat. We're open for a big and robust dialogue. And formative instruction moment. Next, or I've heard maybe folks from my team, the instructional technology specialist, or others, maybe grad school or your master's level work, you may be familiar with our integration continuum. And it seeks to kind of put a big eye on what it looks like to adopt a new technology. And at the very top of this stand is what's called transformative instruction. And this is where a teacher encourages innovative uses of technology tools to facilitate higher order thinking that may or may not have been possible without technology. I spend a lot of my time reflecting what transformative instruction means. So since we're all about narrative and we're all about stories today, I'm starting with a story. I don't know if I took physics in high school, but I did. And I was in on-level physics, and I was a senior, and I walked into class, and Bill Morris, who still teaches in the county, gave us our first writing assignment. And I wrote, physics, what are you having us do writing? And we said, no, he gave us an article, and he told us our homework was to show him we read it. And I went home, and I would write a summary, and we've all been asked to write a summary, right? And I was like, he said, show me we read it. I did. That I was going to write him a quiz and have him take the quiz. I even cut out the answers and turn them upside down since it wasn't possible to do that on computers back then, and handed him my quiz. Well, I know my sister who was in my class thought I was crazy. My friends are like, just get the points, Carrie. And I remember having this moment like, I'm going to get a C in physics anyway. I might as well have fun with physics. Well, I remember when Mr. Morris pulled me out in the hallway, and he told me he'd been giving that assignment for umpteen years now, and nobody had taken him up on the offer to just show what you knew. And I remember thinking how great it was to get feedback, that when you take control of your learning and do something different to hit your needs, have some fun, take some risks, how transformative that was in my life as a student as I went on to college and became a teacher and became creative and took risks. So for me, my story for the day is transformative instruction is more than just with or without technology. Transformative instruction is giving students a chance to take ownership of their learning and do something really creative with it. And I have an awesome guest speaker today that does just that. I'd like to introduce Jessica Wokus from Northwest High School. Jessica, how are you doing today?
Hi, Carrie.
I'm telling my story, so I'm speaking my truth, so it's got to be good, right?
Absolutely. Joan, we got to talk the truth, and the truth is fun, especially with what we're talking about today.
Fantastic. So can you tell everybody a little bit about kind of your background, and then we'll jump right into things.
Sure. I am a teacher at Northwest High School. I've taught grades 9th grade, 10th grade, and this year currently 11 AP Language and Film. It's my 8th year teaching, so in all I've taught 6th, 8th, 9th, 10th, and 11th, as well as some different creative writing classes and test prep. So I definitely relate to both the middle school and high school side of things. And my story, just to kind of go with a little bit of storybook or Storybird, I was up all night the first time I got my Chromebook look for different apps to use because I wanted to be that innovative teacher that had something fun for the kids. So I think it was around 1 o'clock in the morning that I found Storybird and was just so excited that I couldn't wait to find a way to use it for the classroom. So I'm absolutely thrilled to share what I've learned with it and to have this be a resource for other teachers to use.
Glad to have you with us here today. We want to hear a little bit about your stories with narrative in your students, and we got a question for folks to share in the chat. Set your curriculum, your instruction, it could be this year, it could be others, reflect. When in your curriculum do your students get a chance to tell a narrative, to tell a story? If you don't have any, you can say, not sure yet, or just give us a smiley face in turn, but take a second to pause and share. When in your curriculum do your students need to tell a narrative or get to tell a narrative? Or maybe don't and one popped in your head, wouldn't it be great if? So go ahead and take a second and in the chat, give us a quick moment. Maybe it's a project you do, maybe it's a task, maybe it's a common task where they ask them to tell their own story. And class and mental health, historical fiction, writing project, and personal narrative. Ninth fact. Oh, goodness, Jessica, you got them all in there. That's when we were working on, as a form of writing and reading with students as well, making connections to the stories that they read. Realistic fiction, absolutely. Students started U.S. history with back when it was change and continuity, and they told their own stories of coming to high school. What was the change? What was the continuity? And spring break in there too. Lots of moments where students need to express something in narrative form, and if that's the case across the board, well, we got a good app for you today. Now, one of the things that Jessica did was she went through in the English curriculums and pulled out common tasks where students are asked to write a narrative and where the app we're demoing today is helpful. This is just focused on English. Of course, of our content areas do the same thing. But we wanted to show you, with the idea of transformative instruction in mind, is that our students from 6 to 12 before and after will be asked to tell stories. So when you introduce a new app, whether it be docs, forms, sheet slides, Storybird, or more, have the knowledge of what it can do and help them. The next step is also they can use it beyond the room, beyond the gives a really flexible tool for them to really show what they can do. We kind of played it up a little bit. This app we're featuring today is called Storybird, and I have an example of one of your students' pieces of work that I just loved to death. Can you tell folks what it is? Well, I pop over and get it on the screen.
It's actually kind of like walking into an art gallery. Often when we figure that we're going to be focusing on a narrative or writing a narrative, the first thing that comes to mind is going to be laying out the story. What's the story about? How are we going to go through the plot diagram or emphasize certain aspects of writing? And Storybird takes a step back and first allows the writer to look at different visual images and play with what type of art they like. So what's very cool about it is if I'm writing a narrative, I saw someone in there say there's a narrative that aligns with a social studies curriculum of one time that somebody did a good deed. You actually go into the search bar and type in a word. So you can type in, write good deed, maybe that'll pop up, or nice. And what you want to do is you're going to filter through art. These are some of the stories that apparently popped up. But what you're able to do is talk about narratives through the form of art first. So as you can see, Carrie just clicked on artwork. And at this point, students are engaged through the visual aspect of their story. And whatever picture they like, they can click on. And from there is where they're going to build either a one-page poem where they have words given to them, and it becomes almost like a jigsaw puzzle, putting puzzle pieces together, or they're going to create one chapter or multiple pages. You hit use this art, and then the top one is long form, and that would be for your really, really creative writers for the multi-chapter. But I've used picture book and poem. It's an awesome opportunity for them to begin to be engaged in the topic, not just through itself, but also through the visual aspect. And it's amazing artwork to choose from.
Students start to build.
Yes, I played with the poetry part with my AP language students. I gave them a difficult task, and we're focusing on the power of words. So my task for them was a poem that shows the power of language. And here they were given a set amount of words. This is fantastic for students who may struggle coming up with words of their own, so it's a really good way for them to get started. This could very well be maybe baffled students into thinking, what are they going to write about? And it's also difficult because you have parameters with it. You go into the chapter version or the multi-page, you have maybe 50 to 100 different drawings based on the artwork of them that you chose. So at that point, students can tell their narrative through seeing different artwork.
Just did, as you're wondering, I looped through. This looks like, just up at the top, you could tell a great story from our cartoon guy here. If I chose the art, I'd go to picture book. This is where, down here, look, these look like the pictures. I write my story here.
Yeah, very intuitive. It's very easy to move things around. It's user-friendly, so even elementary school students should have no difficulty, maybe just, a little bit of learning time like anything else. You can very easily move the pages by just shuffling them back and forth. You can move the ring around, so if you want to have that picture on the other side, you can do that. And that's it. There's nothing more to it. You can choose some of the coloring on it. But it's amazing that I found with my writers, especially my reluctant writers who struggle to come up with a whole story, it almost helped them, the visual, come up with more of the plot aspect. Or, oh yeah, I forgot that happened too. And when you get into the more creative part of the narrative, there's also a way to let their imagination just soar. I used this for my 10th graders when they wrote science fiction and fantasy stories. And when I saw their rough draft, which I do start on paper, it was so much more detailed and kind of imaginative simply by using the artwork to go along with the writing.
It is a beautiful artwork. I can imagine if I typed in fantasy or science fiction, I would get a whole host of interesting images that really do inspire more words from students. That was a quick intro. So as Jessica shared, it is an application that helps scaffold creative writing. It goes with the poetry, a short story, or really long-form narrative, so you can get into all three pieces. We're going to do some pros and cons, get into some examples, and share what publishing is like as well. But before we go too much further, do folks want to ask questions? Jump in and put them in the chat. If you don't have any questions to this point, go ahead and give me one of those emoticon smiley faces, and I will know that roll. Questions, Jessica, is can this be used only for narrative writing?
Specific type of writing that you're thinking about aside from narrative? I'm just curious. As I'm waiting to see that question, I think like anything else, the use of visual aids can go much outside of narrative. The only thing that I would keep in mind is it is going to err towards the more imaginative side of things because the artwork does need to tell the story. So the only difficulty that I see if you're doing something like with social studies and you want to tell more of a situational piece, students are going to have to be willing to understand that the pictures are not going to perfectly align with maybe the story that they are sharing or the moment in history. Just because the artwork you're choosing from is no different than when you're going into a gallery and you click an artwork, you're looking at what's on the wall. So I would keep that in mind, but I think this limits it to narrative. I think, if anything, this is a great way to use any type of writing that requires some sort of point of view, whether it's, retelling a story from a point of view of a character or someone, with social studies, if it's retelling it from a historical perspective. But keep in mind that the artwork will have its limitations with the more grading aspect of the truth of the story, if that makes sense.
Writing also have some really nice apps with it. That this does focus on narrative writing and inspiration in those pieces. Is probably good. It's always best to match the right app with the right lesson in the right moment. Assets can, and this is actually a great time we can launch into some of the pros and cons as we do. Can students add their own art?
Not add their own art with this. There's two things with that. The way that I'm thinking, in order for them to kind of add their own artwork, it'd be very easy to do that with like a Google slide presentation, where you could actually walk through the slide as if it was a book, using just like an animated page turner. What I like that they can't add their own artwork is it comes more of a higher level thinking process, where the students have to figure out, okay, it wasn't raining the day that we went on this picnic, or, obviously there wasn't a bear in the background, or I was hugging a dog, but how can I still make that work with my story? And I think in that sense, it's very challenging and it's also engaging. But it is one reason that, again, when asked, can you use this outside of narrative, it's using a lot of imagination to make the pieces work.
It's interesting you say that, as there's quite a bit of research coming out of sociology as well, that creativity isn't the blank page, it's working within the interesting items. So you say you found students are more creative, are more complete, and more thoughtful having to work within the paradigms they have than giving them a blank page and saying, do anything.
Yeah, I valued seeing my students have to work with it. And again, I've used this with level honors and now AP classes. So it's kind of, I've seen the full spectrum of different children in terms of high school age using this application. And even my AP students at times will struggle as much as my on level or vice versa, because they want it to work and they have to realize, okay, in order for me to make this work, I'm creative with it. And all of my students seemed very engaged. I think what they liked about it is you can go through the different pages and say, you know what, this page with treats is not going to work. My dog really didn't earn a treat that day, but my dog right now is being really good. I hope she doesn't bark soon. We'll see that happen. But it really does allow for a lot more different interaction with the text and also with visual literacy, which is absolutely important in this day and age with the computer and everything being at our fingertips.
It is that they communicate using things other than words or with words. Anyone who's tweeted lately, and if you've sent a tweet in the last week, you can give us a smiley face in the chat, knows that is true. Well, we've done kind of what it is and the benefits. Let me just ask, when you log in, can you log in with your Google account?
My Google account, what I've done in the past is just use my Google email. I've not done it through Google+. So it's a little easier that way. I had my kids download the Storyboard app from the Chrome Rep Store, just as you're doing. And what's cool is there's a couple of different ways you can sign up. I signed up this year as a teacher and educator. I did not do that in the past. So as an educator, I'm going to go in a little bit to the pros and cons of that. If you can catch up with me, Carrie.
My computer's coming, I promise. It's coming. It's not nearly as fast as the Chromebooks.
I'm just rolling out. I'm so excited about Storyboard. As an educator, what's really cool is you're an assignment and have the kids sign up, and the kids sign up with a class code just like they would for other type of application that requires a class sign up. The assignments are on a very easy to read page, so students can click on the assignment, and it literally says like start work now or create now. It's very user friendly with that. It's also easy for me to go through and say, okay, I'm looking at period 2. Here are assignments that came in. Here's period 8. Here's what came in under this lesson. The downfall of signing up as a teacher, though, is you only have 35 free student with your teacher account. But there are a couple ways to get around that. One, for my AP language students, I had them pair up. I got very creative by combining their names. I didn't say to do that, but it's kind of fun if you want to give your kids something to chuckle about.
William and Ellie here, right?
Yes, William and Ellie. That was, I think, one of the easier ones. Some of the others actually combine names. So you and Lynn might be like Lindley or something like that, or Lynn. I got around the 35 free students. Years that I've used this in the past where I did not have a teacher account, and that is a little bit new for them, simply signed up on their own, and when they just shared me the link. There's a when it'll ask you to publish, and at a point you can push the link out. That if you want to have each student do their own story or poem, they can sign up on their own. It's also cool because they can use it at home. And it's user-friendly, so I do have students that use this for their free time for creative writing. And I basically just either hand out or, fed out a Google form, had them put the link on, or we did present them in one class, and students chose to do this or another application. They were very easily able to pull it up on the computer.
It does let you log in using an account you choose. You can be a teacher, or you can go as a regular individual person. If you're a teacher, those of you guys who are elementary folks, that's probably the best way to go for you because you're not going to have that many more students than 35, we all hope, right? If you're a secondary teacher, you can have one class in there combining, or you can still have students and just share their projects with you. Are there any other kind of drawbacks or pros we should know about? And folks, ask if there's any questions you were wondering about the app itself as well.
Pros, it's very user-friendly. You guys kind of saw Carrie work through it. The only thing to remember is to click on artwork when you're going through the gallery. And we talked about, again, that it really helps connect students with visual aids, and that very much furthers their creativity and expression because it starts with the visual. And in that sense, they're almost working backwards, stimulating their ideas. Only downfall, as we're used to talking about collaboration, especially with Google, is not collaborative in real time. So if my students who are working with us with another student have to share one computer, we're going back to the ice age, right, doing that.
and not so long ago, we would have been like, oh, yeah, that's normal. But we've changed in the past 365 days, haven't we?
Absolutely.
Cindy asked if we're limited to 35, would we have to delete the students' accounts year to year, or is this a yearly limit?
Actually, a really good question. I just got the teacher account because I've been using this with my students independently signing up. I don't have an answer for that. It's something we can kind of find out and look into, but it's like a good question as we get going with the technology to have for the next year.
Because it'll be interesting. I know our secondary folks, we share copies of Romeo and Juliet books and shuffle. I wonder if you shuffle your projects, you can have 20 now, 20 later, and if you just delete them and can put new ones in. That'd be interesting to know. I know Lynn is on the line as well. She might be able to jump in and do a little multitask research, and we'll see if we can get the answer today. But great question. If anyone has any others, go ahead and throw them in the chat. And I think I might ask Jessica, so I'm going to go back to my projects over here, and my stuff, your stuff, right? Yes. And I made these little projects. They are not the most riveting. I suppose I can edit them from here, but if I click here, there's publish. You want to tell us about the publishing options now? When, how you do it with your students?
Sure. Published it's the end result that we all aim for, especially using technology, which is when you can share your ideas with the world. In that sense, we're looking at you're not quite finished.
Oh, I have to do some options here as we get in. So, well, that's good. It does stop you if you don't do it all at the right time, right?
When your story, you should be able to go to the menu, and when you're done with that, and publish from there. There's a few really cool things. It's very easy. You can get a link to share it, so you don't have to worry about, did your student put this in the Google Drive? Am I going to be able to find it? They just simply, yep, they're going to publish their work after your title, and they can just share the link. They worry about embedding it. And if a student really, really does like their work, I have not had this happen, but they can actually publish as an actual book and purchase it. It's kind of cool if there are students who capture this for the future. And I don't even remember that screen really popping up in terms of, it confusing students. It's something interesting as well, or if you want to make one for your child one day or something like that. But it's very user-friendly. Very quick to go back to the delete. I do see in actions with my students that I can remove a student from a class. So if Lynn, that helps you out at all, but I do see that action as possible. And then what page is just hit the little share button, and then the links should pop up for you to do that. Share link. And
so if you were using this and students had their own accounts, we've seen teachers do it in different ways, but you would just copy this link and that's what the students would share with you. We had some great advice from some Kennedy teachers where they were making Wixie or Weebly sites, and once they got the link, they just went to a sheet, which is like Excel, and they wrote their name and they pasted their link, and that's where instructor was able to go and grade. You could probably do the same right here. Very cool. Now, Jessica, I'm actually going to ask on your screen right now. You were looking at your teacher view, something I don't have. So I'm going to pop back for a second, and I'm going to give you the rights to be able to share your screen. Are there any limits in publishing of how many times you can publish on the free accounts? Is there anything we need to worry about with that?
I don't know. When I used this last year, it was unlimited. And haven't seen anything pop up through my research with that.
Second, as you guys could see, we did pull some of the poetry up here that Jessica's students were putting through. I am posting just a couple of these in the chat. They made my day when we were planning for this. They were just such nice little moments in time as the poetry goes. Do you have any questions? We did publishing. We talked a little bit about some of the parameters with how the work goes, and we've given everybody some, this is one of my favorites. It must be the raccoons or the panda there, and it reminds me of me as a kid, so maybe that's it as well. If you have questions, throw them in the chat. If you don't, go ahead and give a smiley face, and I'll know we can pop back. We asked, how would you add a specific assignment for students?
I'd say very easy. From the teacher panel, it looks very similar to what you saw when Carrie tuned in, and it just says create. When you go under your student page, it just says add assignment, and it's fairly simple with that. The thing with it that's neat is you actually view the assignments as different files rather than a list. So yeah, exactly. You're looking now, so you actually see the title of the assignment. You can put a picture with the assignment, so it's just an easy way to recognize what you've added.
So it shows a nice way to invite a collaborator, so it looks actually super easy for students to be able to work together, as long as it's not real time. They both be able to get in and edit if they work together. at least it might be a little known feature of it as well, but not only like you write, you can also read. So one of the first things I noticed when I came in was I kept, when I did my search and I wanted to do something like dragons, right? When I came in and searched it, I got all these cool things about dragons, and I couldn't figure out how to do a story. Well, you know what? If artwork is how I get to my pictures to write a story, but there's also a number of stories that have already been written in here. So not only do students create their work, you can also read the work of other students, and that might serve as a source of information and inspiration for your kids as well. And shared with us that making, sharing, and reading on Storyboards is free. The only fees you may run into is printing or downloading. So that's right up our wheelhouse. If anybody has any other questions, go ahead and throw them in the chat. If you don't, you can give us a smiley face emoticon. And you're thinking of your last questions. Jess, do you have any advice for teachers who are going into narrative and thinking about taking the next steps?
I always start off with any assignment on technology. I still mostly start off with a pen and paper. And then we're engaging them with this type of task of working with an online resource. I ask my students to brainstorm first, and I do think that is still a very important process or part of the process with the type of narrative or even using visuals. It also helps them tune in and say, okay, you know what, I really love this artwork, but it's not going to work for here. So I definitely would keep whatever scaffolding teachers have in place that they've seen successful with the students, so that the focus becomes, again, more on the task rather than the technology piece. This is one of those applications where, sometimes I'm very hesitant. I'm like, okay, there's 20 different things I need to know about this application before I launch it. It's very intuitive. It's very user-friendly. So this was something that we could just do in 20 minutes, even in terms of a poem, and the kids were able to get the hang of it, have fun with it, and it really caused no frustration on all the different level classes that I've taught.
And hearing other folks and what they've done with Storyboard as well, as you look back in our feedback forms, as you can always tweet us as well. And an email is not old technology. It's still, an oldie but a goodie, as well as you take advantage of using narrative, using this really flexible app. Got a couple more questions to come in before we go. One is, so I may have missed it from earlier, but if you don't create specific assignments, can you still see everything students work on, or do you need a link?
A good question. The way that I've seen my students' applications is one of two ways. If I had a different account, then obviously he or she would have to share the work with me. The students that do have a student account signed in my class have only done classwork this time. So I think it would be easy if you have a student sign up for your class just to kind of look on their dashboard and see what they see. But it's something that, again, I don't have an answer for, but it would be very easy to figure out just from looking at a student's dashboard.
It looks like once you know, the author, I bet you can search for the author as well. So once they share one assignment, I bet they can't disappear from you. And it looks we're good on questions. So that was Storyboard. Now, stop over to our one of our reoccurring segment here at Appy Hour. It's called Hanging at the MCPS Chrome Store, and that's where we preview and review apps in our Chrome Store. As you know, you as a teacher can download and add any app in the World of Chrome Store yourself, but your students can only do those that are available on the MCPS Chrome Store. The first app we're going to highlight for you is actually called Pixabay. If you've used it, give me a yay or a woohoo in the chat. I'm going to swap over and show you what it does. Strong points of Storyboard is that it actually does force you to use the program to tell a story to really inspire creativity. What Pixabay does is it lets you search for free use, no attribution required, and how great is that, pictures for students to tell their own story. So if you want to come in and write car, I want to tell a story about cars, it will pull up and give you pictures. Now, the ones at the top, Shutterstock, they cost money, so we all ignore those, and instead I can find lots and lots of cars down here. If you like one, it's super duper easy to download, open them up, and use them. And since there's no attribution required, you don't have to go through the more time-consuming process of having your students annotate. Especially if you weren't looking for annotation as your skill. If you were looking for telling a story, these ones are free and you can use them, and there's no required. And one of the neat things that Jeff did mention as I come to my drive on the fly here is you can, if they're telling a story, you can always go back to and use Google Slides presentation. You can take your picture that you wanted to go ahead and take and download or save to your drive and whatnot, and paste it directly in presentation. And then they have complete control over pictures they show, what their story is, where they want their text to go. It's a really kind of a simple way to be able to create a storybook using your own images as you move through. And worth a shout out in the main newsletter, I was a big Microsoft Clip Art user. So for me, when it went away, I nearly cried. And if you want to know the images I use now, I go to Pixabay. As you can even see, I have a little shortcut link to it on my toolbar here. And I'm easy about what links I put up on there. It's Pixabay. If you have questions, throw them in the chat. If not, go ahead and give me a smiley face. My poor computer, I feel bad for our regular Appy Hour listeners who hear me say this. My poor computer is sometimes on its last leg, but it will take me right back. Really cool extension, which saved to Google.
Whitney,
if I can get it up and not freeze, I then throw it over to Lynn for our PD break room. Up there to our second session of the day, second extension, which is called Save to Google. Search the Chrome store for Save to Google. What's super cool about it is any picture or image you find on the web, you can right-click on or use your two little, as Lisa Fuller says, feather fingers, and click, and you get this little Save Images to Google Drive. So as you surf and navigate the web, you can right-click on those images and save them straight to Google Drive, which will make collecting visuals much more efficient for your students. And that those are good for your all classes, including Espanol. And I also totally agree, Whitney, that the Daily 5 Writing Workshop in elementary classrooms, it looks like it'll be a real nice fit. Over to my colleague Lynn, and we're going to take you into our break room PD, and then we'll be wrapping up for the day. Lynn, take it.
Hey, all right. So we want to make sure that you, as Google Apps for Education users, know where to get all the cool stuff that can help you find your way around all the apps, extensions, add-ons, etc. So if you have questions we would like you to be sure to take a look at your drive. Questions there. You can always get your instructional specialist. I hope you know who your instructional specialists are. Thank you. Hold on. Let me get organized here. This is what I was talking about first. Let me back up. Your specialist, you see the cute little picture with everybody? I'm not actually in that picture, but anyhow. These are the people who support your school. Hopefully you've met with them if you've already got your Chromebook cards. If not, you can expect to meet them someday. You can ask your staff development teacher, your principal. People know who your instructional specialists are. And if not, just email Carrie or I can let you know who those people are. But these are people just like you and myself who come out to schools. We can support you with writing lessons. We can support you with co-teaching a lesson. We can introduce an app to your students. So just a resource for you if you need to have human contact. If you need a quick question, you can always look it up. If you go to your drive, you can see that there's a search drive feature at the top. You can search your drive. You can search, do an advanced search where you can actually search all of MCPS. You can search by file type, so if you know what you're looking for is a document, you can change that. If you know it's a spreadsheet or if it's a Google Slide presentation, you can check if you know you wrote it, but you can't find it. You can say that, yes, it's owned by me, or no, it's not owned by me. And that last little box right there, that one that says Search MCPS, is when you want to check. And you can check all of MCPS for all of the help guides. Just type in what is, how do I, things like that. You can get a lot of information. And that's what we all use every day. You can Google it. That's what we do. If you send us a stumped question, we'll Google it if we have to. So you go ahead and use that feature yourself if you need a quick answer. The ITS person is also available via email, and you can check with them. Back to Carrie.
So mention as I come back on and she puts me back on, not to steal the thunder, but here's a link to our Appy Hour site. It's where we list the topics. Every Appy Hour is a new Appy Hour, but if you go to our site, you'll also see recordings for all the apps. We are in the 20s right now for our recordings, and every Appy Hour is a new one, and we do post it to the site for you. So if you've missed them in the past and you're like, hey, these might be useful, go back and check them out. It doesn't have to be a huge overhead burden on yourself. In fact, this is a picture of my kitchen. I'm making sushi, I'm hanging out with my 2-year-old, and I'm watching a webinar to learn. So maybe you're just turning it on at the end of the day after the kids go while you clean up. You know, maybe you're at home whipping up some good sushi or baking some bread or even just ordering pizza. You know, whichever these things are, don't make it a huge commitment to yourself. Turn us on, take what you can get, and every time you do, we will give you credit for attending an Appy Hours. So if you're watching it and you fill out our survey at the end, you've gone through our stuff, we are glad and we want to give you credit while you're supporting your own professional development. Takes us to our wrap-up. Thanks, everybody, for coming today. I want to give a big thank you to Jessica, as always. This is her second appearance with us, and she really, I think, really just shares such great stuff. So big thank you to Jessica. Any parting words for folks?
I was really glad to be here today. I would love to see how Stuart is going to kind of come into the classroom. I am just getting so many ideas by talking and hearing about things in the Spanish classroom, social studies, and it's such a great avenue of learning. And be creative, have fun, and as you can see, everyone's learning every day. So if you're a number 1 or a number 2 at the beginning in terms of trying to figure out where you are with the Google apps, just keep at it, and most importantly, have fun with the applications with Google and have fun with your students.
And you do really awesome stuff. Make sure to share it with us. We want to start a new hashtag. We were considering to have it be Gaff Brag, but you can tweet it to us. You can share it with everybody if that gets through. You can also email us and share, and we are always looking for really awesome presenters who are doing cool stuff in the classroom to be part of our Appy Hours. So share your idea with us, and maybe you too, not only will you move up from a 1 or a 2 when it comes to your Google use to that 5 all the time, you will even be asked to be a presenter with us. Thanks everyone for coming, and whether you're watching in recording to the podcasters or you're live with us, please take our survey before you go. I dropped it into the survey right here. The other nice thing is when you close this show, when you just knock yourself out, it actually just pops open on your screen for you. So if you click and it doesn't open up for you, if you're recording too, guys, I totally want you to take the survey so much. I make it pop up. You just close out and it'll work. Everybody, and have a great day.